Hello everyone, this is TheNelston. Welcome back to another video. For those of you who are semi-active on the Wynncraft Discord, you probably know that Morph is easily one of the most frequently discussed topics. Some people hate it, some people love it, and a hell of a lot of people like to make shitposts about it. Today I'll be talking about why I believe Wynncraft's Morph set is good, both as a gear set but also for the game's health in general. This is going to be a subjective video chock full of stories and the like, but since I made this Wojak picture where you're wrong and I'm right, clearly it's all going to be fine. I'll be breaking up my commentary into two main sections, number one being why Morph is good as a set, and number two why Morph is good for the game as a whole. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Morph is good as an item set. Now, for a little background, Morph was semi-recently nerfed in 1.20.3 with the total skill points that you have after equipping the full level 100 set reduced from 75 in each category to just 65. This was quite a massive nerf as it effectively killed quite a few Morph builds, especially those that relied on dual-wielding weapons while maintaining the proper intelligence level. However, I fully believe that despite this change, Morph is still incredibly powerful. Something I think people tend to overlook is the generalist function that Morph plays in the meta. For example, let's look at one of the most common weapons used with Morph, the Nothing. This build does a pretty hefty 15.5k meteor with sustainable 1/1 mana, and if you sink the 12 extra skill points into defense, you can also have yourself 54k effective HP. Is it true that you could make a build with either better EHP or better meteor damage? Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. However, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to make a non-mythic build which costs less than 1 liquid emerald that can boast both higher EHP and damage. Another example would be, say, Morph Infidel, which has enough strength to dual wield Rhythm of the Seasons. You get here 8.2k bashes and 12.8k uppers with sustainable 1/2 mana and 71k EHP to boot because, well, you're a warrior, you need to be tanky. You know, it's got decent damage, it's got great sustain, and it all around costs less than what you'd get from an average level 50 quest. You kind of see what I'm talking about. There are always going to be better options, particularly if you allow yourself to use the mythics, the legendary island accessories, and other higher end equipment. But for a set which costs so little that people hunt with it even though it's not untradeable, I'd challenge you to make something significantly better. Thus, I think the issue that a lot of people aren't getting is that Morph is not supposed to be an endgame set. Let me repeat that. Morph is not an endgame set. Instead, it's meant to do its job as a stepping stone towards a more specialized and well-tailored build, and this leads me to my next point. Morph is good for the health of Wynncraft. This is something that I think gets more into the subjective realm, but bear with me here. When I first started playing Wynncraft, I'd heard a lot about how Morph was bad and lazy and bad. Did I mention that people said it sucked? Of course, this was not a majority opinion by any means, but it was what I heard the moment I asked, so I ran with it. What was the result? Well, I ended up filling about 10 bank pages with enough junk to make another England, most of which I actually still have, as I swapped from build to build, not knowing exactly what I wanted to play. Despite having made a lot of LE from lucky investment decisions and just straight up doing quests, I barely had any money to my name even by the time I was level 105 because everything I earned went straight into buying more stuff that I would end up replacing anyways, literally a few minutes or hours later, and if I powdered a weapon, well, that was just tough. Of course, I'm not saying that every new player is going to be as stupid as I was. In fact, a good majority of people that I know took the time to, actually do research and figure things out before shotgun buying everything and regretting it later. What I do tend to illustrate with my story though is just how useful Morph is as a means of building wealth for newer players. When you don't have to spend every penny you earn on buying new gear just to try new builds because the one some guy sent in the class builds channel just didn't quite hit the spot, you tend to accumulate more spending money, which can eventually be put towards larger purchases like mythics, which, as I mentioned before, can easily outshadow Morph. This leads to people feeling more invested in the game as they can set a goal like buying a good monster and acquire stuff at a reasonable enough rate to actually make that purchase in a realistic time frame. The natural loot bonus on Morph alone makes it perfectly viable for some lazy scrap running or ingredient farming. Another massive benefit of Morph is how it enables some people to beat difficult challenges. I've often had people come to me and ask me for a build that can beat Bob, Corruptor of Worlds, Legendary Island, Eldritch Outlook, or Nexus of Light because they can't with their current build. And then when I tell them to use either full or partial Morph with substitute gear, they almost always report back positive results. Of course, Morph is not optimal by any means, but the fact that it is quite strong allows people to partake in activities that they might not be able to do otherwise at a lower cost than literally anything else that you can think of. And guess what? When people realize that, hey, I can actually win these tough fights, or hey, I can be a useful member of my team raid, they tend to stick around and continue playing the game. Maybe even one day purchasing a great mythic that they cherish and use to play even more of Wynn with. At the end of the day, regardless of whether or not you personally think Morph is lazy or bad, it is undeniable that its existence significantly boosts the likelihood of someone sticking around in the game for a longer period of time, and thus it is good for the game as a whole. So I guess the question at this point is, do I personally use Morph? Well, the answer is that honestly, I rarely use it outside of grinding certain ingredients these days because, I've had the massive fortune of being in a wonderful guild, join ICO, that has helped me accumulate enough money to buy builds that I like to play for all 5 classes. However, during the period where I leveled my assassin, mage, warrior, and shaman after finishing up my archer, Morph was an immeasurably useful tool for getting me through raids and other assorted activities until I settled on a build that I liked. If anything, I would love to see more endgame sets because Morph is really the only one that's viable, and I really do think that's kind of a shame. In the end, I know that people will continue to say that Morph is lazy or bad, and to be honest, I kind of agree. However, viewing Morph as anything beyond a transitional phase people can rely on to accumulate enough wealth for better builds is a massive mistake. And I think we can all at least appreciate it for its effectiveness at doing what it was made to do. Well, that's about it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is probably going to be one of my last videos for a decent amount of time, as I'm currently in the process of preparing to move into my college dorm. I have a few more uploads lined up, but as far as my schedule goes, I will be quite busy enjoying my final few days of summer. Once I figure out how I can continue to make videos in a group living situation, I will be back and better. If you want updates, make sure to join my Discord server. The link is in the pinned comment, the start of the video, and of course the description. Alright, remember to leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you hated it, subscribe for more content like this, and as always, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.